Fully vaccinated people of Reddit. Are you still wearing masks? Why or why not? This is my policy. I'm in Florida, which has been looking for an excuse to not mask up. Now that the policy is no mask if vaccinated, suddenly everyone is vaccinated. There's maybe 2 to 3 people in any given place with masks on. If somewhere asks we wear a mask, I gladly put it on. But if it's optional, I'm torn. Wearing a mask is asking for snarky comments here from both the pro-vaccine and anti-vaccine sides. If you wear it, it's a sign that you're not vaccinated. I got the first dose the day after my demo could get it, and will get comments about how you should get the vaccine. Also, if you wear it, it's a sign that you don't need that anymore. Why are you wearing it? From the opposite side. I don't want to deal with either of those, so if most people have one on, I wear mine. If not, I don't. But if a place has masks required, I make sure it's on no matter what everyone else is doing. Edit for those late to the party who might question whether Florida actually has the situations I'm describing. https://www.local10.com/news/local/2021/05/06/ conflicts over face mask use continue in South Florida/. And that article is based in a fairly liberal area. I was doing this for a couple of weeks. My rule was if the employees were masked, I masked. As a former retail worker, most of the mask policies have struck me as customer-centric at best, employee-hostile at worst. I am less concerned with infecting other unmasked customers in the store, as they generally have every ability to limit their own risk. My whole family is healthy and vaccinated, so bringing it home is not ideal but also not a dire concern. My prime motivation is, A. Limiting risk for employees and, B. Promoting a mask-positive environment to ensure people who actually need to be wearing them are more likely to do so. That being said, I am now back to full mask indoors. My area is likely to return to a mask mandate soon. I've noticed employees in most of my normal shops back to full mask policies too. I'm sure it comes as no surprise to anyone on this thread, but the unvaccinated by choice people obviously cannot be trusted. Edit. Thank you for all the awards. Regarding my statement about unvaccinated by choice people, I am specifically referring to those who are anti-maskers. This combination of behaviors helps COVID continue to spread and mutate into new increasingly vaccine-resistant variants. Yeah, a few reasons. I work at a hospital, it helps keep things healthy and sanitary. Also, just because I'm at a lower risk, COVID and people have passed by me and their germs might still be on me somewhere. Maybe I can't be 100% safe, but the mask helps. Wearing one helps contribute to the public perception that people should keep wearing them, and until the CDC/WHO/related organizations come out and says we're in the clear, I'm gonna keep at it. Vaccinated is not immune. Just last week several people came in COVID and that had been vaccinated a few months prior. They were less sick than they could have been, judging by appearances, but still. So you can still spread it. Yet I'm kind of surprised by some of the indignation in this thread against people who choose not to. I wore my mask for the past year. I mostly avoided seeing friends and family for fear of spreading the virus. I stayed socially distanced and quarantined as much as I could. I washed my hands frequently. I got tested when I was exposed to people who might have had it. I got vaccinated as soon as I was able to. I did everything I was supposed to do. The CDC says that we don't have to wear masks if we're vaccinated, so I don't. I know most people in the real world don't feel this way, but it is surprising to see how many people in this thread are talking about vaccinated people who don't wear masks as being selfish assholes. We did what we were supposed to do and now we're trying to return back to normal. I don't see why that's so bad. Fully vaccinated for a few months, in Boston area. I wear a mask on the T, required, and in grocery stores or pharmacies. Basically, anywhere where I may run into a kid or an immunocompromised person, and that person has to go there. Not in bars, restaurants, or retail establishments, unless requested by the establishment. Here's the thing, I'm fairly certain that if I caught COVID I'd be fine, but I don't want to pass it to a kid or a person for whom the vaccine isn't as effective. I don't give a fuck about the anti-vaxxers. I hope they come around, but if they don't, that's too bad. These are people who spent the last year and a half spreading COVID around, so my sympathy with them is negative. I was about to type this exact thing. My Mill is elderly, feeble, and has had 3 strokes. My mom is also autoimmune. My daughter is 14 months and my nephews are 3 and almost 1. Delta variant is shown to still be contracted by vaccinated people but with a less intense reaction. Despite that, it's probably still very damaging to my Mill, mom, and any of the kiddos. Even if it doesn't kill them, it could hinder the kids' developments or have long-lasting effects on those who already have it bad enough. Delta and variations could be even worse where it spreads faster or is less affected by the vaccine when it comes to minimizing their intensity. Personally, I had pneumonia 6 years ago and although I recovered it ruined an entire summer for me and had long-lasting effects. I quit performing as a singer because for years afterwards I would be overcome by a coughing fit at times of increased cardio intensity due to volume or high pitch. That's better, but even now I can't run a mile again yet. I wouldn't wish that on any of my family. Using my alt account because I don't want my friends and family to find out, I am fully vaccinated. I was scared at first because of the possible side effects and the quickness of its manufacture and release, but after reading up on it, I felt much better about getting it. My partner and my best bud both refuse outright to wear a mask and even worse, to get the vaccination. My partner has even begun to call everyone sheep/sheeple. Unfortunately, due to the state of country, my partner and I are in the process of moving from a blue state/red county to a red state/red county. I want to wear a mask whenever we go out, but in our new state, mask wearing is frowned upon. I already stopped wearing it around my buddy because I am the odd man out, they don't know I'm vaccinated, and mask wearing is no longer enforced here. I do wear it if I'm alone because it doesn't hurt, and why the hell not? But I'm afraid that once I arrive in my new state, I'll be pressured into not wearing it anymore. Fortunately, I'm vaccinated, but I fear for my partner who is not vaccinated, refuses to get vaccinated, and has health issues. I love my partner and we've been together a long time, but this very well may be the one thing to separate us, not because I leave, but because my partner has a greater chance of dying. It wasn't really created that quick. It's largely based on the SARS-2 vaccine, which never went to phase 3 trials because not enough people died and got infected with it, so it wasn't financially viable to continue development. mRNA has also been researched for either decades or hundreds of years depending on how abstract you want to get. It's not a new technology at all. It just wasn't financially feasible to try and get mRNA vaccines through approval, as just using a vector base is a lot cheaper and requires less testing as it is a very old and proven technology. COVID indirectly pushed vaccine development forward a shitload. Now that the first mRNA vaccine has been accepted and supply lines have been created, you will see more and more mRNA vaccines. The most interesting one right now is malaria, as it kills a lot of people. Depends. I live in a city that's high on pollutants and allergens and humidity, usually all 3 at once, so if I walk outside and my nose starts tingling, I put on a mask. I have COPD, and one has saved me from my typical yearly upper respiratory infection for 2 years now. These are bad infections that can turn to pneumonia and have landed me in the hospital. On a nice day, I only wear it if I'm going to have to be around people. I figure if I'll wear it for my own comfort, why not wear it for the comfort of others? I found a very comfortable brand that fits my face nicely, so it's not like it's putting me out in any way. Once they know I'm vaccinated, I'll ask if it's okay to go maskless, and if they are vaccinated they usually say yes. Lastly, my kid isn't vaccinated, and if I'm out with him I wear my mask whenever I expect him to, as I think that's fair and sort of a show of solidarity. He doesn't go out much though, as he's pretty afraid if COVID. Couple of his friends' parents died after catching it from them, so he's understandably tense about it. He gets vaccinated soon though, so hopefully we can all figuratively and literally breathe a little easier when that time comes. My wife is fully vaccinated and I just had my first shot recently. We both already decided to keep wearing our masks for a while for a few reasons. One is we both went all year, we live in a snowy New York, without even a cold or runny nose, and that alone was enough for me to keep wearing. But secondly and most importantly is I don't think that a lot of people realize that the vaccine doesn't make you immune to COVID, it just makes it so your symptoms are not as intense. So with the new Delta strand being the most aggressive and contagious, I don't want to get it and give it to someone who may have not gotten the vaccine yet. Because this has been the first time I've gone an entire goddamn year and without getting a cold, cough, flu, etc. I got the Rona early in the pandemic, first week of April 2020, so about a week and a half into lockdown. Knocked me on my ass for 2 weeks. I could still taste, so they thought it was the flu. The next month, I see in the news that symptoms could include nausea, vomiting, fatigue, headaches, coughs. Basically it was a checklist for everything I had. I've never been sicker. I have both doses of the vaccine now, and I'm still going to wear a mask outside wherever I'm allowed because vaccines aren't 100%. Variants like the Delta variant are still a concern. Even though I've been vaccinated, the vaccines mainly prevent hospitalizations in case of infection. I don't want to be infected, period. If I can deny the virus another petri dish in which to mutate, I'm going to. Masks are effective against spreading not just the coronavirus, but things like the flu, and the numerous viruses that cause the common cold, and many other communicable diseases. My girlfriend got me these sweet Mortal Kombat masks. So hell yes, I'm gonna take the opportunity to wear my sweet Scorpion/Sub-Zero masks. I don't trust the people in my city to not be shitty, selfish, assholes. We still don't know exactly how long the vaccines are effective for. They may require boosters down the road, or it could become an annual issue, like with the flu. Vaccinated does not equal immune. I can still spread it even if I don't get sick. Immunocompromised people, the elderly, are a concern as well, etc. It's basically a common courtesy, the world doesn't revolve about me. If a business asks me to do so while inside their building, yes, out of respect and courtesy and a desire for minimal drama. Otherwise no. Because of my job I got the vaccine relatively early, and before my wife was able to, she caught COVID. We live in a small apartment where it's not really possible to quarantine from each other, so I just resigned myself to seeing if the vaccine really works or not, and we continued living as normal, including sleeping in the same bed, eating together, etc. I did not get sick. Took tests and everything to be sure I wasn't just asymptomatic before I could go into work every night. Nothing. If I didn't catch it from her, I'm willing to bet I'm not gonna catch it from somebody breathing 6 feet away from me in a grocery store or restaurant. So much this. If I had an award to give, this post would be getting it. I should clarify that I have, as well as is feasible, complied with regulations throughout this. However, I will be ditching my mask after it is no longer mandatory. I am in the UK, where the vaccine program has gone very well. Frankly, I think it's a bit odd how many people have now decided that one extra virus out of the thousands that exist is the straw that broke the camel's back for society. The flu existed beforehand and killed people, yet I didn't see anybody advocating for restrictions then, since the risk was low enough and the vulnerable were vaccinated. Obviously COVID is not the same as the flu, but the principle holds. The deaths and hospitalizations are at a manageable level, with no reason to believe they are going to get out of control. Let's start living according to common sense, and enjoying ourselves like we did before, without paranoia. As for variants, guess what? The flu mutates too, like any other virus. All any vaccine does is protect against the most virulent strains, to ensure society is adequately protected as a whole. And that was enough to keep the flu at bay before this. Nobody lived in fear of getting the flu, and unless there is strong reason to believe that COVID is going to suddenly develop some super mutation that is immune to the vaccines, I see no reason to live in fear of that either. It isn't cases that matter, it is the severity of the cases. I'm still wearing one and probably will continue to do so in public for a while. I work in retail and see firsthand how gross so maybe people can be. Even though a lot of stores have the only fully vaccinated people can go maskless rule, I know they aren't actually enforced and I don't trust a majority of people just based off the honor system. Plus, even though I'm fully vaccinated, I still have friends and encounter people who haven't been able to get theirs yet, and if wearing a mask could potentially stop me from spreading something to them, then I think wearing a mask is a small price to pay. Plus at this point honestly I'm pretty used to masks after wearing them at least 40+ hours a week for over a year and they don't bother me. And I like not feeling obligated to fake smile at customers and people in general. I don't wear a mask when I know the people around me are fully vaccinated and living relatively safely, or when I'm outside and very well distanced from anyone not in the former group. I'll basically put the mask on if I need to pass others 6 to 15 feet away. I wore a mask in public, indoor settings because I could still potentially spread it to kids, guaranteed to be unvaccinated, or the immunocompromised, and because I wanted to avoid it my immunocompromised self. Wearing a mask is free at this point, so it's just easier and better to be safe than sorry, especially in higher risk settings borderline zero cost, potentially high reward for the community at large. I don't want any part in other people having to live with disabilities or discovering symptoms that I live with, and wouldn't wish on my worst enemy, later in life. After the CDC guidance came out, though, a lot of places dropped their mask enforcement and some their requirements altogether, so now I'm back to intense isolation as I can't know how effective the vaccine was for me and my poor immune system. I'm going to wear a mask in indoor or jam-packed public spaces until independent national health advisors recommend not wearing them. I am no more afraid of getting a serious dose of COVID than I am of getting the flu. I am 32, in good shape, and have no pre-existing health conditions I am aware of, but masks have never been primarily about protecting the person wearing the things. The vaccines massively decrease your chances of getting seriously ill from COVID. They don't stop you from getting it, incubating it, and spreading it. What does it matter if you spread it when lots of people are now vaccinated? There are plenty of people with weak immune systems whom COVID could still knock for 6, even if they're fully vaccinated. There are some people who couldn't take the vaccine for medical reasons. There are some people who've been forced, due to the beliefs of their guardians, not to take the vaccines. Also, the more we limit its spread, the more we reduce the chances of vaccine-resistant mutations arising. I cannot speak for elsewhere in the world, but in the UK the amount of people who, in 18 months, have never managed to wrap their head around the concept that masks are more about protecting other people than protecting the wearer is unreal. Large sections of Western civilization have become completely incapable of making the fucking tiniest of sacrifices for the common good. I cannot relate to a person so devoid of basic decency that they can't suffer wearing a piece of cloth over their face for a small fraction of their day. Yes. I'm in healthcare and thinking retrospectively, we should have always been wearing masks around patients. Just like we do hand hygiene, it just prevents spread of disease and viruses aside from COVID. Not to mention, all the vaccine trial efficacy rates were observed when these public restrictions were in place yet. So I would rather do the extra protection, see, the Swiss cheese model. Plus all the other perks mentioned elsewhere like bad breath, and sexist men saying I should smile more. I'm not planning on throwing away my mask. Definitely reducing my use in certain situations, not entirely. COVID hasn't gone away and there are other viruses that are nice to not have too. In my area it's no longer required to wear a mask. But prior to this pandemic there were other places like Japan where masks were commonplace. I don't see why something has to be enforced in order to be considered a good idea.